Oh, sorry about that.
So nice of you guys to have us on board. We're so excited for this.
I know you said don't bring a lot of stuff, but I had to show you this new makeup. You have AC, right? And a bathtub?
We're gonna party!
I'm gonna wait on you, okay? Don't you worry. You got some good stuff in here. Oh, wait, what's back here? Now, where do you keep the vodka? And do you have any brie?
I tell you, you always feel so grimy flying on the airplane. Feels so good to get off and get out here and just... but wait, let me tell you about this conversation that I had when I was on the airplane with the guy next to me. We were talking about sports. He was into professional bowling, and I was trying to tell him about professional cricket playing. And you want me to turn it off? What? What do you mean, uh-oh?
I think I got a problem. The toilet's not working. Yeah, it's overflowing.
Did you put anything down it?
Just toilet paper. Is that normal? The water just turned off after like 15 minutes.
Yeah, we ran out of water.
Is something wrong?
Is everything okay, you guys?
Yeah, you guys seem a little upset.
Yeah, we need to talk.
Awkward. Having a good relationship with the crew or the guests on board comes down to two things.
Expectations and communication.
We're talking about the relationship you have with crew and guests on board. Help to make things go a little smoother.
We got 5 different categories that you should cover before your guests come on board.
Always 5.
The categories are
Resources,
courtesy,
finances,
safety,
and what to bring.
and what not to bring.
For friends and crew who are new to the sailing and cruising thing, well, one thing they got to get used to is the limited resources we've got on board.
We're talking water,
And power,
food,
and internet. Also of concern, always, the plumbing. The sewage, if you will.
You know what we need? We need a water meter.
I think water is probably the number one thing that people have a hard time with.
It's really hard to get used to it. In fact, when we go back to land, we find ourselves turning the faucet off almost automatically. It's kind of a subconscious thing, but getting used to limiting the amount of water used on board is a big thing for a lot of guests.
Because you're washing your hands, you're washing dishes, you're washing your body. I mean, all throughout the day.
There's a lot of things you can do to limit how much fresh water you use. First of all, we do not stack dishes on this boat. When you stack dishes, you're getting, food stuff on the bottom of each dish that you've got to wash back off.
See Nick's dishwashing tutorial here.
Lesson number 1. First we scrape.
In fact, a lot of guests want to do the dishes, and we just say to everybody, let us do it. We got it.
We'll use maybe a gallon or 2 of water where a guest would probably use 15 or 20.
Taking a shower, that's a huge adjustment. Most people want to feel that hot water for a while.
Yeah, I think the average American takes a shower that uses 20 to 30 gallons of water. And aboard Clarity, a typical shower uses maybe 2 to 3 or 4 gallons tops.
That's turning the water off while you put your soap on.
The one place where we want folks to use a little bit more water is when they're coming and going from the ocean. On the aft deck, we've got a shower, and we'd like folks to wash off each time so they don't bring the salt into the boat. Even if you've got a water maker, it's got a limited capacity, and the more you use, the more you've got to make. Typically that means running a generator or using battery power.
Regardless, water makers take a lot of power, which leads us into the power subject.
We've got a lot of battery power and a whole bunch of solar power on this boat, so energy usage isn't as big an issue as it is on other boats. But absolutely, positively, got to turn off those lights when we're not using them. And also, people don't think about this, unplug the electronics that are sitting there fully charged. They're using battery power even when they're just sitting there, so unplug them.
Internet is a huge one.
Frequently, because we've got a local SIM card, we share our internet. But we always have to remind folks to turn off their cloud backups. And remember that a single Netflix movie can use 2 or 3 gigs of data. So that movie could cost you $5 or $10 in data.
So download your movies ahead of time and your podcasts. The refrigerators.
Yeah, and the galley in general. This is going to vary from boat to boat, but in a lot of cases, the galley is the domain of the chef.
Yes, and it is hard to keep the refrigerator and freezer organized. So rummaging is just not allowed. If you need something, let me know, I'll get it.
A lot of boats will have a special guest cooler or a guest refrigerator that's got some drinks in it, maybe a couple snacks in it, and that lives in the cockpit frequently. But in the galley, the chef is the one who runs the fridge and the freezer.
Everybody wants to help out on the boat, and we do appreciate the thought.
Yeah, the sous chef sort of stuff where you're chopping and grating and all that sort of thing, you're welcome to help. But the chef's in charge.
And when it comes to the dishes and the water usage, it's just much easier if we do the dishes. So sit back and relax, you're off the hook.
Yeah, take a load off and enjoy.
The toilet.
This should be its own category.
It really
shouldn't it?
But we didn't want to have 6 categories. So.
That's right, we want to stick with 5.
So here's what I like to tell people. As I show them how the head works, I say, the worst thing you could ever do on this boat is to put toilet paper down there. And I feel like that works. They get it.
Yeah, toilet paper or really anything that didn't come out of you should not go down the toilet. I have rebuilt so many heads due to some people's oversights.
It was a hair tie.
Can you forgive me? Not good.
Not good at all. So remember, if it didn't come out of you, it doesn't go down the toilet.
The next subject is courtesy.
Now you got your common courtesies on land, but there's some different courtesies on a boat, just because we're all sharing such a small confined space.
You wouldn't think you'd have to tell people not to go nude on your boat, but you probably should, just in case there's some people that like to fly free.
We've had a guest before who liked to be free, and you have to make sure that everybody else on board is cool with it. Especially in common areas, it's really important to keep your stuff picked up and put away. Only leaving a book or a cup or something or other down a couple times, and all of a sudden the place looks like a pigsty. Speaking of clutter, it's really common to put your towel and your wet swimsuit up on the lifelines with a clothespin during the day.
And that's perfectly fine. But at night, those make a lot of noise next to those open hatches.
Ping, 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 ping. We've talked about this one before, and that is shoes on board. Yeah, it doesn't really matter whether you've got super duper clean white-soled shoes. If you're walking in from a dock or from a road, your shoes are likely dirty, and that dirt gets on the deck, and then it's got to be washed off again. So, no shoes on the boat, except for boat shoes that stay on the boat all the time. Now, speaking of taking your laundry down at night, let's talk about the differences in schedules between land life and living on a boat. You ever heard of something called cruiser midnight?
That could be anywhere from 8 to 10 p.m., depending on the cruiser.
A lot of cruisers get up with the sun and go to bed with the sun. So while you might be used to staying up until midnight or 1 a.m. watching TV, typically on the boat, 8, 9, 10 p.m. is all she wrote for us, and we're down in our berths.
We think that quiet time starts when the first person goes to bed and the last person wakes up.
And in the morning, you want to keep it pretty quiet until the last of us is up and around.
But if you're real sensitive to noise, bring some earplugs.
Speaking of bringing earplugs, here's a list of things that you should bring as a guest or a crew, and a few things that you absolutely should leave at home.
Definitely bring soft luggage. Duffel bags, backpacks, those are great.
Any hard shell luggage that gets really, really hard to store on a boat, it's probably going to end up in the bulk storage in one of the bows, which, by the way, is kind of humid, so not a good spot for it.
Yeah, duffel bags crush down really small.
Also known as sea bags, because sailors use them at sea.
Another thing to bring for sure are your medications and the prescriptions.
Sometimes, every once in a while, and we've heard of this happening, the medication can spill or go overboard or get lost, something like that, and this can become a big problem in a foreign country. So bring along the prescriptions and your doctor's phone numbers so that anything you need on the road or the high seas can at least be searched for.
We are a member of the Dan Diver Network, which means we have medical evacuation coverage.
It's actually not insurance, it's a member benefit. And anytime you're traveling, if you have an issue, it doesn't have to be an emergency, you can call, talk to paramedics, physicians. They'll help zero in on what the issue might be. If you need further assessment, we'll help you find the closest point for that. And then if it's determined you need to be evacuated for proper treatment, we arrange and pay for that. And you can elect to come back to the U.S. for treatment. You don't have to, but you can come back to any point in the United States, and you're stable enough, of course, to make that journey.
And that's only $50 for the two of us.
That's one of the benefits of being a member, but it doesn't necessarily extend to a guest or crew. But crew coming aboard in a foreign country, it'd be a really good idea to get your own medevac insurance or become a member of the Diver Dan network yourself.
Or check with your insurance. Maybe you have that clause in your insurance.
Hats, sunscreen, swimsuits, a rash guard, all great ideas to bring aboard. What you probably don't need to bring aboard is any sort of formal wear. Even the fanciest restaurants down in the islands, you're going to find folks are in flip-flops at best, with raggedy old t-shirts the rule. The formal wear, really no reason to bring it. Also, no reason to bring your own scuba equipment. Your mask, maybe your fins, but a lot of that stuff is available on most boats.
It is a good idea to bring any specialty food and snacks that you might like.
Or specialty food and snacks that we might like. Illegal drugs, that's a pretty easy one to explain. Even if the captain is not aware that there were drugs on board, should the vessel get searched and they be found, the vessel can be impounded. So a good idea to bring along those prescriptions, as we mentioned. Also, red wine. There was a time when we said, sure, have some red wine, but I think it was some of our first guests on board drinking red wine spilled it all over the carpet. Red wine is so much harder to clean than white wine. So, as a rule, let's leave the red wine at home.
Let's talk about safety.
Yes, safety is a big deal on this boat, and it should be with most skippers and crews. We do a safety briefing from the beginning. Some of the things that we're going to talk about, their locations and use, will be the EPIRB. That's the emergency beacon that we pull should something really, really bad go down. Show you where it is and how to activate it.
We'll show you where the fire extinguishers are and the fire blanket.
We'll also talk about the life raft, where it is, how it's deployed, and who will be deploying it, and who decides when we deploy it.
Also, basic use of the radio. So, pon-pons, mayday if necessary.
We'll show you how to operate the buttons and get the word out if we're in some way incapacitated.
This one is for the guys. No peeing off the decks. I know it's tempting.
Yep, you skip that trip downstairs, but there's two reasons why we do not allow peeing off the side of the boat. First of all, a lot of guys have fallen overboard and been lost at sea, relieving themselves. The other reason is it's a lot harder to get it away from the boat than you might think. And a little later on, you'll be going along the side of the boat and find a little surprise here and there. That's pretty gross.
Whenever you go somewhere, you've got to let the captain and the admiral know where you're going.
Yeah.
Whether you're going on your paddleboard or the dinghy or swimming, we need to know where you are, and if possible, we'll send you with the radio.
If somebody were to just go missing, all of a sudden, that would be a cause for emergency on a boat. A lot of places, the currents are swift, and we want to make sure that guests have got the safety equipment that they need. All right, the last category is expenses, and pretty much from start to finish, it's all a gray area here. But we'll talk about the different categories of expense and expense sharing that we have on Clarity and we've seen used on other boats. First of all, you are either a guest or you are crew. Now, if you're a guest, on this boat at least, you're friends and family, and you're really not paying for anything. You flew out to see us, and we're taking care of the rest. Now, there's a completely separate definition of a guest on a charter boat. On a charter boat, you're a paying customer as a guest. And that means that all the expenses for the boat, the fuel, the food, everything is the guest's responsibility. The captain and crew also likely compensated and get a 10 to 20% tip. So, two kinds of guests.
The other category is crew, and there's two kinds of crew. One is a paid crew. They're actually hired for their expertise to help deliver a boat. And the other one is crew for experience.
If you're crew for hire, this is pretty straightforward. You get your transportation to and from the boat paid for. You get a daily rate. So you are a paid professional helping to deliver or helping the owner to move their boat around.
The other category is contributing crew or crew for experience. And if you're crew for experience, you are expected to pay for your own transportation and your own food.
There's also really an in-between gray area here. Sometimes the captain or owner will pay for the contributing crew's transportation to and from the boat and also take care of the food costs. In other situations where maybe it's a little bit more a leisurely sail, not really a delivery, the captain is expecting that, well, the crew might kick in for the food and for the check-in fees and that sort of thing. So that'll just be an individual agreement made before anybody arrives on the boat. And that's really, really key to discuss how expenses are going to be broken down before anybody gets there.
Yeah. So we hope that these 5 categories help you with your conversations with your future guests and crew.
And help things go a little bit smoother when they are on board. It is wonderful sharing this lifestyle with folks.
We think we covered it all.
Yeah, how to be a good crew member or guest on board Clarity or any other boat like this.
How to set expectations with your crew.
Yeah, have these discussions ahead of time and have a detailed briefing once folks are on board. Create the right expectations and things are going to go a lot smoother.
So let us know if we missed any in the comments below and let us know what you think.
Yeah, thanks as always to our patrons. Really appreciate the backing. And also we wanted to tell you about our podcast, Under the Sheets with the O'Kellys, where I'm sure we'll expand with a few stories about some of the crew things that we've had go down over the years. Yep, that's right, crew getting into fights and, oh yeah, maybe a little bit of extra water usage from some unnamed folks out there. So lots of stories to tell in the podcast this week.
Thanks everybody for watching, liking, subscribing, and your comments. We really appreciate it.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.